Automation nation, automation nation, automation nation, around the nation, automation nation, automation nation, automation nation, around the nation, around the nation, around the nation. Welcome to the Automation Nation podcast, the show for business leaders, tech aficionados, and those who are just simply curious about where technology and business are going. Automation Nation is your gateway to understanding automation, AI, and the future of business. Don't get left behind. Tune in now and subscribe for more. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are back for another Automation Nation conversation. Got a great guest here today. We're always interested in leveling up your education, right? And there's so many things you can be leveling up your education in. And how about tax for business? Okay. How about understanding that tax component? Because see, if you get it right, it can be a huge benefit, huh, Daryl?
Oh yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you can get it wrong,
it could be another story. And we're going to talk about that. And what I love about it is I love to present opportunities. I love to present the problems in those opportunities, but I also love even more those solutions, Daryl. And you're somebody who has seen and helped people find those solutions. But before we even take off, if you're listening to this or watching this, you can connect with Daryl down in the comment section, the description section. You'll be able to click on a link and get right to the insight that he has to offer. But I want to let Daryl just take a moment to introduce himself and kind of share what he's been doing over the last 30 plus years. Okay. And why you might want to be tuning in and take some notes. Daryl, why don't you kind of share, man, a little bit about yourself?
Sounds good. Thanks for the introduction, Robin. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the episode. And when it comes to state and local tax, I have 30 years experience. I deal in all states, all industries, and I go from startups to Fortune 500. So I've seen it all throughout the years. And like you said early, just to get this started, it's if you do it right, then there's really nothing to worry about. But if you do it wrong, or if you don't even know that there's a monster lurking out there, and then they start looking under the bed, there's monsters coming out, it's kind of hard to sleep at night. So basically it's just I think here we'll just talk high level and share some of the knowledge I've seen, share like some of the best practices, some of the automation that I've seen, because as you probably know, there's a ton of automation in the accounting and tax side. So we can just go from there and just.
I want to get in that. I want to get in that. Mm-hmm. Before we get to that, I'm going to ask you. We ask all our guests this question. It's because we're powered by Simply Automates. We have this simple question we ask everyone. And if you could simply automate, Daryl, one thing, just you can only pick one thing in your personal life, what would it be?
Organization.
Man, I never actually have not heard it that clearly put before.
Because there's so much going on, because each client is different. It's sort of like your child. Every child's different. No one's the same, and they all have different issues. And it's just like, okay, like today I already was speaking to 3 different clients, and each one was different, and we were talking about different topics. So it's just, if there was a way just to press one button and have you organize and be like, okay, here's this next person in the queue, and we're going to talk about this. Here's the next person here, instead of like, spending a few seconds of trying to rewire your brain of like, okay, what are we going to talk about now?
Yes, that's a good one, man. That's a good one. You will save a lot of brain energy power. The brain uses 25% of the body's energy. So you can preserve as much as you can with that. That's good. That's good. Okay. All right, cool, man. Let's jump into some questions here. What's the biggest challenges, man, businesses face with this state and local tax compliance? Let's talk about the biggest issues.
Yeah. So I think the biggest issue really is depending upon what they're selling, like if they're a retailer, if they're a service provider, what type of service they're providing. Because when it comes to state and local taxes, there's no consistency throughout the states on the taxability. It's not like, a federal government where all you need to do is just know one state, one government's law. I mean, there's 50 states and everyone taxes things differently and that, but and also too, like some of these companies, they just might be based in one state, but if they're making ever since COVID, the online, there's a lot more online merchants. How often do you really go to the mall now to shop? It's just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna see if Amazon has it or see if someone else has something, the same product but just a little bit cheaper and that. So the online retail really has taken off, and that's what has created the biggest issue on the compliance side, because how can I put it? I'm gonna probably start deep diving just a little bit. I mean, I don't want to dive into state tax, but just sort of give a backdrop of that. So when it comes to sales and use tax, it's physical presence. So like here, I'm based in a suburb of Chicago, so I'm physically located in Illinois. But if I was doing services, you're in Maryland, and if I was going to sell you, product or something that you need for your business, whether it's software as a service or hardware, computer hardware or any kind of widget, if I'm sending it to you, but I'm not based in Maryland now, over time, the states want tax revenue. So I think it was 2018, 2019, or no, it might even been before that, maybe 17, 18. There was a Supreme Court ruling where it was Wayfair against South Dakota, and South Dakota wanted tax revenue, and Wayfair said, "But we're not based there." So what had happened was they created what's called right now economic nexus. So depending upon the state, and that's the problem, is 45 states collect sales tax. Each state has different thresholds, but most of them, it's a minimum $100,000 in sales. So there's a lot of times where I'm talking to prospects or talking to CPA firms. They say, "Hey, I have this client." And I'm like, "Perfect. Give me all their sales by state. And then we'll see, did they exceed these thresholds? And then if we did, okay, we need to start getting them registered if they're selling a taxable product." So then it's like, there's companies that didn't realize that they might be subject to taxation in certain states by making a large amount of sales. I mean, which is good for startups. I mean, shoot, if you can sell $100,000 into a state, your business is doing well.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, it is. But then, when you're doing well, there's always room for things to go wrong, and that's like understanding the foundation of that. How can automation help with this efficiency? That's a good question.
Right. That's where I think like there's the software in place, but I think those products can be enhanced that will then, okay, as like the sales orders are going out, as you're billing a customer, maybe there's some automation that can be done that can all of a sudden, give you a color bar of like, hey, I made so far $80,000 in sales into Missouri, so now it should maybe make it red. So then it's like, your tax department or your accountant needs to know, hey, we're getting close to hitting this threshold, and now we're going to have to start filing.
That's good. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a real good one there. And what are some of those common mistakes? Because that I love talking about issues and problems, and if we can talk about them before they happen, maybe someone won't make it.
Yeah, when it comes to multi-state tax planning, like I had mentioned earlier, the industry is so broad, and the way they write their laws, they can't address every issue possible that's out there. So it's how I always tell my clients, it's if it was black and white, you wouldn't need me, but it's the shade of gray. And it's just like, if it's a light shade of gray, then okay, we're fine. But it's like, as it's more fact driven. So it's like, if there's some things where it starts making it murky and all this other stuff, then that's where I sort of recommend, hey, let's not be aggressive. Let's take a conservative approach and maybe set up a reserve that, if something goes wrong, at least you have some money set aside that, you're going to have to pay the taxes. Because one of the mistakes I see is if you're not taxing a customer correctly, the burden is on you. Or if you don't have good documentation, which also leads into automation, like, when you're sending out a customer's invoice, does it automatically get an electronic copy in some kind of perpetual data room? Because I can't tell you right now, I'm going through an audit with a client where we can't find the invoices from 3 years ago. That's because usually when you get audited by states, they can go back 3 or 4 years. So, what were we doing last week? We can't remember, but what can you, if you can't remember what you were doing last week, last month, how are you going to remember what you were doing 3 years ago? And, where's that invoice? Where's that invoice at? Or, like someone, employees using like procurement cards to go out and purchase products and, they're out in the field, maybe they have to do a repair. Okay. Well, if the auditor pulls that credit card statement for that month, where's your receipts behind it? Yeah, it's great that I have a receipt here, but what happens if it's not there? Now there's so much with like not having proper documentation or not having proper files or retaining like customers exemption certificates where and that's the other part of having automation, because a lot of there's some niche boutique firms that's what they sell. It's like, oh yeah, we have this automation where all you have to do is scan this customer's exemption certificate and it goes here. And then, that's great, that you have it, where it's at.
Right.
But for those that don't have automation, it's here, go through this file. Good luck trying to find it and hope it's there,
Yeah. Call that a paper trail or a paper maze, whatever one you want to call it.
I never thought of it as a paper maze.
Oh man, yeah, it's so true. And getting people to come to step. I made a post today in regards to coming out of the caveman era. Because we are, very very much a lot of our thinking is archaic. It's just old and outdated, and it's just time. It's time to level up so that we can move forward and not get left behind. That's
and that's the thing too. Like when I'm representing clients through audits and that, it's just it's so frustrating to not have things automated where you've done your work and it's been saved and you can see where it's saved. There's some companies that might do their payables by batch, and okay, there's a batch and you can find it, but I would say that's few and far between. And, if you don't have good records, you don't have good documentation, and you don't have your, good procedures in place for the automation side, or on the flip side, you have the automation stuff, but are you maximizing that? You might not even be using all the bells and whistles that is being offered.
So understanding your tech stack and understanding, so you actually walk with folks as well through your recommendations and kind of do that kind of analysis as well?
Right, yeah, because there's even things where they'll buy an add-on software, and that's where we do the just the tax, going through like a taxability matrix and just seeing us like trying to map like a SKU or a product code to a taxability matrix and that. So then it's like, when someone keys in, we're selling widget 123, okay, it's coded to this is automated, okay, in this state it's taxable, so it'll automatically then pull in, hey, the invoice will make it taxable too. So Yeah, there's a lot of automation on the tax side, but there's also a lot of room for improvements. Like some clients I walk in and you can just see it's like it's fresh out of the box, and I'm like, oh, there's so much more you can do,
Yeah.
to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are some strategies for staying updated with these tax regulations? Like, give us some tips
Right.
on that.
Well, yeah, I use a third-party software, and usually things roll out like every quarter, and there really isn't anything really major. I mean, it would be more like industry specific, like a court case or a letter ruling, and you'll see that out on the internet. But most of that stuff on the automation side of staying up to date, those companies, like if you're using a third-party product for like I was saying that example before, for the software to determine the taxability of your product, they send monthly updates. But that's the other thing too, is your IT or someone has to make sure that they have it turned on so that those updates do go through. I mean, I've seen that where I'll spot check some things with a client, like once a year, and go, hey, this should be taxable. Why is it not? And then they're like, oh yeah, no, this, you pull up the current you pull up the version of the matrix, and it says it's not taxable. And I'm like, no. And then it's like, are you sure you've got the right version? And then you pull it up and look. So I mean, there's a lot of things too, where it's like, you need to make sure you have everything turned on to keep working properly.
Right. That's good. Well, let's do high and low. Let's do this, the sun and the moon, with the dark and the light. Just give us a horrible story and a great story of somebody who did not do their understand these tax regulations and didn't work out too well for them. And then give us a story on how it on the pro side. We're looking for pros and cons. We want to see how it can go bad and how it can be good.
I've got a lot of horror stories. There was one client I had. They sold, I'll say, widgets to a company, and that company issued them a resale certificate because they used those widgets to make their finished goods. So they were buying them exempt for resale. So there was no sales tax charged. But what had happened was, it was one of their larger customers, and over like a 3-year period, they had $10 million in sales. And this is in Texas. And Texas audited them and saw, hey, there's no tax on these sales. Show us the resale certificate. It's like, oh yeah, we have it. And they pull it up and they couldn't find it. And then, they get me involved. They're like, oh man, we can't find it. And then I go, well, are they a current customer of yours? It's like, no. And what had happened was, during the pandemic, they just went out of business. So they were out of business. You couldn't reach them. There was no contact information. All the owners had, either retired, moved away, or whatever. And they were subject to tax on $10 million at 8.25%. And that's a lot of money. And then you throw interest and penalty, and that was a lot more. So that was, I think that's on the extreme side of things. But yeah, that company's profit took a hit because they had to pay, 6 figures on by not having one sheet of paper saved somewhere.
Good gosh.
Yeah. But then on the good side is, there's a company I'm working with. It's like, okay, they're filing their returns on the state all the time. The state wants to come audit them. Everything I was able to go in through their storage area where they had everything automated, saved, and just pulled it up, and everything matched. The auditor sampled some stuff. I was able to find everything. It was a no findings. We were done in like maybe 2 days, and the auditor's like, yep, you're fine. There's nothing to see here, nothing to pay, and on to the next. It was them. They're like, yeah, they had their feet up. I was like, go to town. You're not going to find anything. We're good.
That's a good story. That's the side of the coin you want to be on.
Right. And that's why it's so beneficial on, having good automation, good records, good record retention, and there you go.
Let's do that real quick. A good recommendation audit for a company. So you should give them. Let's give that recommendation.
So it's just making sure that everything that you're working on just gets uploaded and you know where it is. It's like a perpetual data room.
Mm.
Where can I go and find everything? And whether it's the smallest thing, you know, on there or whatever, it just as long as everything is saved, because nothing's worse than having files of paper laying around in folders and all this other stuff, and you don't know where it is, and things fall out of a folder, or
Oh man,
things get lost, or who
yeah, who
knows
knows
what.
what could happen? Who knows
But
what
yeah,
happened?
if,
I was working on the balcony one day and I had all my papers out there. I'm on the third floor and went inside for a second, and don't you know, a gust of wind picked those papers up. I mean, all over the balcony, all papers were flying like little paper airplanes. I was thinking to myself, wow, I'm glad I have all this stuff digitally saved. It was crazy.
oh man, at least you weren't the one running down the street, chasing after that, going, "Oh no, man! I hope I don't even have any flashcards in there that blew away."
Oh my
Oh
goodness,
no.
man. All right, let's talk about these various industries, man, that you're working with, and like, how do you?
Hmm.
What's your approach? Because you have diverse industries you work with. Do you have a certain approach?
They're actually mostly the same.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to, like, it's basically, when it comes on the state and local tax side, it's all uniform. But then, like, certain industries will have, certain carve outs, or certain exemptions for them that will apply. Um, depending on how you manufacture a product and that. But see, each state's different. But when it comes to all the industries, it's like it's more, what I enjoy is going on their plant tour and seeing how they have things automated. Because I can remember,
Mm.
I don't mean to date myself, but back in the late 90s, there was a lot of manual labor. And now when you walk on the floor, it's all these machines just running and everything's automated. And you just go through and just watch the machines go, and then you'll go in the back room and watch the person. I don't even know what what their title is, but they're in the back room just watching the monitors and just watching the flow of the product going through, and that, I mean, whether it's on the chemical side, automotive, food, even like in steel mills, you'll watch the temperature of the furnaces, and that, and it's just it's interesting to see how everything has pivoted away to where there aren't as many employees on the plant floor
Mm-hmm.
then as there are now, because everything just keeps getting automated, and you can make products faster with the
Yeah.
automation and that. So that's the part I enjoy. But then you look at it closer, going, is that mold that you're attaching, does that qualify as machinery and equipment? Or
Mm.
here's like a solvent you're using, does that stay with the product, or does that get dissipated? So there's
Mm.
there's different things. But I enjoy walking through plant floors and just seeing
Yeah.
how things are being made, how it's all automated. But then it's like, okay, but where is that solvent going?
Yeah.
Is it getting
Yeah.
dissipated in that?
Mm. I like
So
that.
yeah.
I like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Let's talk about, how do you see the future, man? Well, let's talk about, 'cause automation. This automation nation, and we
Mm-hmm.
know that we are moving in, like, the speed that we are moving is rapid.
Right.
Technology has been moving faster and faster and faster. It's like a snowball going
Mm-hmm.
down a hill that's on a complete slant.
Right.
And
Right.
so, what do you see is in regards to the future of automation in this industry, and anything else you see in regards to the future? Because I know someone who has this much experience in history, definitely has a formulation perspective about the future. I'd love to hear yours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can see products getting done faster. I mean, it's just it's probably more efficiency in that of like, uh, what is it? You're competing against foreign manufacturers and that, and you want to bring jobs. You still want to keep jobs here in this country and that. So it's just I think everyone is evolving, trying to make something better, faster, um, more. I mean, shoot, just look at how the iPhones have progressed over time, or you know. Remember probably when we were in college, Rob, you were walking around with the Sony CD player and headphones, and now your earbuds, and you can just download the music there. So I think it's always going to keep evolving. There's always going to be the race to the top of who can bring out the next best thing and all the intellectual property, and everyone's just, no one's going to stop because everyone's going to have some kind of idea, and how can we make this idea better? I mean, taxes are never going to go away. Taxes are always going to be there. But the part I enjoy the most of this is working with a diverse group of clients, seeing how they make their product and how they can make it more efficient, more cheaper, but better. Or I don't mean to say cheaper, cost effective and better.
Yep.
Because cheap doesn't, you don't want to be going to a dollar store buying, your office furniture, your laptop.
Yeah, you're right. I just saw an ad for a huge, beautiful looking swimming pool. So on Temu, I just saw an ad for Temu. If those who don't know what Temu is like, it's like the dollar store online, but you can get anything. So if it comes from China, you can get anything, but you gotta be mindful of what you're getting because you get what you pay for. So be careful. I like Temu, but be mindful that it may not be the quality that you're used to. So I like that, man. Cost effective. Let's use that word.
Exactly.
All right, we're coming in for a landing here, Daryl. Last couple questions here, man. Number one, if you could automate one thing in your business life right now, simply automate one thing in your business life, just a click of heels, wave of a wand, wiggle of a nose, what would it be?
Something that would just get all my work done in one button. Right. All I have to do is just review it and go, yep, this is good. It's done.
Everything, huh? All work done automatically. Hey, listen, sounds like all you would need is some good prompts, Daryl.
Or AI or ChatGPT and all this other stuff, but it's just because it's funny even talking about that, because there's some things where people just make fun of, like, oh yeah, I was researching this and I used ChatGPT, and I'm just like, yeah, it's still not, you can't replace me because there's more things to think about than just a robot, so but yeah, if there was one button that could just, if I could hit, that could reconcile everything, just pull everything in that I was working, and take a PDF file, convert it to an Excel file, and everything went into the right rows and everything was formatted correctly. That would be the perfect. That would make life so much easier.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a beautiful thing. And there's actually a wonderful bot that loves to do what you just said. He's out there. He's looking for work. He's out there interviewing. He's trying to find you, Daryl.
Oh no, take my job.
Yeah. All right, man. Last one here. Give us your best piece of business advice and your favorite quote.
Best piece of business advice. That's a good one. I think just try to stay organized. I mean, and just stay on top of things. And it's just, how can I put it? Just organization, and just don't get overwhelmed. And there's only so much you can do. Businesses now are 24/7. When you go to bed, and there's companies that have an online business. Orders are still coming in overnight throughout the. You could be global if you have a website. Where you're selling stuff wherever you can. Nothing says you can't sell it anywhere across the world. I don't know. Favorite quote. I really I don't know. I really don't. I really can't think of one, but the one I always use, like in my tagline, is I always try to maximize profits while minimizing the liability, and that's right. Just
Maximize
rely.
profits by minimizing
Yeah,
liability.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
That
That's a
is.
good
I mean,
one.
that's the one
I
I've
love that.
used where I'm just like, oh my goodness, if you could just minimize your liability,
Yeah.
you'll be much more profitable.
Oh my goodness. And you know what? I think you can minimize the liability by getting more organized. I think
Mm-hmm.
you didn't know you brought those two together, but that
Mm-hmm.
works, man. That
Yep.
works,
Yep.
Daryl. That's great. That's great. I thank you for being here, man. I hope that people were listening, take some notes, and if you're looking to connect with Daryl, his information will be down in the description. Any final words you want to share, or anything you're working on, or anything that you want people to know, and then close with giving them how to connect with you too.
Sure. Yeah, it's just I have so much experience in all the industries, and that I'm there aren't that many people out there like me, so that's why like a lot of CPA firms don't have staff, because you don't need me as often. I mean, I would say picture me as like that left-handed reliever in the bullpen in a baseball game, where it's just like, ooh, I'm in a jam, how do I get out, who do I go to? And that's usually where they all come out and reach out, to me on there, because it's a specialized niche on there, and that. So yeah, pretty much anything, even if it's just a random question where it's just you want reassurance. Yeah, feel free to reach out, and it's always good to connect, because you can never have enough friends, in this industry, and as they grow, the questions will get more complex.
Man, that's good stuff. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for being
Mm-hmm.
here,
Yep. Yep.
guys, gals. Be sure to connect with Daryl down there in the comments and descriptions, and remember, you're don't put the text game on the back burner. Don't put it on the back burner, okay? Because you might get burned.
Exactly.
We're gonna close with that, folks. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching or listening to the Automation Nation. You don't know what you don't know, so get around folks who know more than you know, and then you'll know what you didn't know.
Automation, Automation Nation, Automation, Automation Nation, Automation.